we are hearing this bill because of all the questions, confusion, clarifications that a lot of our stakeholders want. And for the record, I started receiving some of your messages, letters, emails, concerns, of course, through various senators a few months ago. But as you know, we were in this committee was very much involved in other tax measures. And so I had made it known to all that we will have to deal with this after we pass the current tax measure. So that is the reason. And I do believe that my staff has communicated that with all of you. No? So it was really just the desire of this representation to handle things in a more logical and cohesive manner, other than me just giving you quick answers that won't resolve anything. And then Senator Sani Angara filed the bill, so I felt like, well, then we might as well hear it, which then gives all of you your opportunity to raise your concerns. So again, as a quick backgrounder, we were looking at two provisions of this bill. Senator Sani had, I think, submitted in writing one version, and then there was a lengthy discussion on the floor with Senator Recto. And in the end, it was the version of Senator Recto that was carried by the body. So many of you are lawyers, so I'm sure you've done your homework and tried to understand what the intention was here. But all I'm saying now is that it was very clear that what we carried is an existing provision of the bill with a simple change in the rates. So that's what happened. No? So I won't go into anything further, but just to clarify, like, what did we change? We just changed the rates of the existing provision. So on that note, we can now proceed. I will call the government agencies first. Let's see. Government agencies, so just to run through them, that would be DOF and BIR, the most significant. DepEd actually doesn't have a representative because they said that this being a tax measure, they do not have anything to add. But CHED has a representative. I don't know what they intend to add. But yes, I will call you, Senator Drilon, after I see you. And was there anyone else? Okay, I see you. Just also ask my.
With all due respect, before we call on the agencies, Madam Chair, can I be allowed to make an opening statement before the source persons will speak?
My staff informed me of that, and I was going to call you first, so don't worry. I'll just run through. And any other senator who would like
Madam
to make
Chair?
a statement. Sani, of course, it's your bill.
Yeah, can we sponsor the bill at some point?
Yeah. Okay. So if Senator Gilon, if it's okay with you, I'll call on the sponsor first, no? Senator Sani.
Sure.
Then and then you, and then I saw Amy raising her hand. Joel.
Madam Chair, yes.
If did I miss anyone? Because there are other what do you call this? Some of the other senators might be on the other, but I don't think I missed anyone. Okay, but before I call the senators, I'm just running through the agencies. So those are the most important agencies. I don't know really what CHED and TESDA have to say, but so you don't have to take the floor unless you have something to say about this issue. It's important lang that you know what's going on. And then we will go to the education institution, and this is where makikiusap ako sa inyo. No, we have the umbrella organizations such as Cocopea, PACU, and the like. And if your concerns are already addressed here, then please note that your position papers are duly noted, and we will share this with all the senators. So you do not have to read it. But if you want to share your views, may I remind all, which is a rule I have, huwag nyo na kaming basahan kasi pwede naman kami magbasa, and that's what the umbrella agencies are there for, not to cover the whole ideas. Just feel free to express your sentiments about it, pero huwag nyo na kaming basahan, and then let's limit that time because medyo nagulat lang kasi ako that there are regional representatives, and let's honor naman everyone's time. No? That's why I just want to still give you that time if you want to. You don't have to because your mother organizations will be given sufficient time, and your position papers are just as the strength of your positions papers are just as strong as any statement. So it helps us if we just have key people speaking. Okay, so yun, pag binasahan niyo ako, rest assured, I will interject ha. Sasabihin ko talaga na kung babasahin niyo lang yung buong paper, basahin na lang namin. Okay? I just really want to be more organized here, everyone, kasi ang dami nung gustong magsalita. Okay, so as I said, let me call on Senator Angara for his opening statement, sponsorship, and then Senator Gilon, and Senator Joel and Senator Aimee were the ones that I saw. I will rely then after this on the Secretariat to tell me who else. Otherwise, kung wala nang ibang senator, then we will go to DOF. All right, so I give the floor to Senator Angara.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to our colleagues and to all the government agencies represented and the education stakeholders present. At the outset, I'd like to thank our chairperson for acting so swiftly on this bill, given the urgency, the issue. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your initial remarks, valuing the time of each and every one of us here. I'll try to do the same and keep it brief. It's a very simple bill, ma'am. It's Your Honors. It just seeks to amend Section 27B or clarify Section 27B of the NIRC, National Internal Revenue Code, which to change the wording to make it to clarify that proprietary educational institutions should be taxed at a lower rate of 10%, which is the provision that has been in our statute books for almost 50 years, if I'm not mistaken, Madam Chair. And we had to do this because there are varying interpretations by some of our revenue authorities. But I also must state that we should thank DOF Secretary for publicly stating, Sonny Dominguez, DOF Secretary Dominguez, for publicly stating that he supports the amendment of the tax code to this effect, given that he has worked previously with the Ateneo de Davao, and he realizes that these are very difficult times for our educational institutions, Madam Chair. So any higher tax imposition is not only unwarranted in law, it's also very bad policy, Madam Chair, given the history of our educational reforms. The private education sector was hit hard by the K-12 law back in 2011, 2012, but yet they supported it given its strategic importance to making Philippine education very competitive globally, and to make graduates of senior high school employable even without a college degree. We're still working on that, of course, as you know. And secondly, the free college or the UACTEA law also hit the private education sector hard. That was the second big blow. They lost a lot of students to that. And this would really be the, sabi nga natin, baka strike 3 na to for the COVID pandemic. So pag pinagsama-sama po lahat yan, it is a very difficult period for our private educational institutions. So I think this is a very urgent. Primary advocates, you're the senior vice chair of the finance committee in charge of the educational institutions. So you know very much how they are facing difficult straits or struggles at present. And we try to do our best by providing for vouchers, expansion of the ESC, the service contracting, and the GASPE. But of course, you know, to jump from 10 to 25%, wow, that could be the final nail in the coffin for many of the smaller private schools, Madam Chair. So yun lang po, it's a very simple bill. So to give way to the others, we won't do any extended. Let me allow me, Madam Chair, to mention that many of our colleagues have signified their wish to co-author the bill, and I'd like to thank them. I'd like to name them individually: Senate President Pro Tem Ralph Recto, Senator Majority Leader Zubiri, Senators Gordon, Villanueva, Gatchalian, Poe, Binay, Pangilinan, Hontiveros, Pacquiao, Revilla, and Villar. And I know Senators Marcos and the Minority Leader are also very supportive of.
Thank you, Senator Sani, for that. Let me now give the floor to Senator Gilon. Yes, Senator Risa, I'll call you after. I acknowledge from my staff that Senator Risa had made a reservation before I called on the others. After Senator Gilon, Senator Risa, when you're ready.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I will not. I will try to be very brief. Uh, Madam Chairperson, you know this, as you have seen in the recent past, senators both from the majority and the minority blocks have complained about how an implementing rule or regulation supposedly to implement the law have actually gone beyond what the law is and sometimes even contradicts the spirit of the law. And this bill that your committee is now hearing, that patently erroneous interpretation of the tax regime governing educational institutions. This is a classic example of this revenue regulation, is a classic example of why the senators are complaining about the internal, like said, Madam Chairperson, the Create Bill did not touch upon the characterization, the character of the educational institution. It did not, we did not touch on it. It's the same. What we did was to touch on the rates given the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic on the educational institution. Let me repeat that. We did not amend the characterization or the coverage of educational institutions or the definition. We only touched upon but the BIR regulation, Madam Chairperson, ruled and interpreted it otherwise and redefined what is an educational institution for purposes of the tax regime that would be applicable to them. And because of this totally uncalled for interpretation, Senator Angara has rightfully filed a Senate Bill 2272 and supported by a number of our colleagues. Madam Chair, let me add my support to this measure. How I wish the BIR will simply correct the BIR, I wish the Department of Finance will simply correct the interpretation of the BIR. BIR is under the control and supervision so that we do not have to go through all of this process of hearing it in committee and debating it on the floor. And having said that, Madam Chair, I am certain that BIR Regulation 2027 will be, 2021, 5-2021, will be questioned before the courts as being beyond the scope of the Bureau of Internal Revenue to implement in the manner that they want to implement it. That is why this bill is being proposed. We realize, however, Madam Chair, that this is since it's a bill, it will need the approval of the president. We do not know what will happen. That is why it is in this context, Madam Chair, that should the committee file a report favorably endorsing this bill, I would strongly suggest that accompanying that committee report recommending the approval of this bill would be a resolution with station of the deliberations in plenary insofar as the bill is insofar as the Create Bill is concerned. To me, that is essential, ma'am, because remember that we are already on our last year. We have just practically a few months of substantive legislative work, and we do not know how the House of Representatives, how the President will react to this bill. It is for this reason that we are proposing a resolution accompanying the committee report so that we can put on record the intention of the Senate on this measure so that it can assist the courts in interpreting the legislative intent when we pass the Create. That is my suggestion, Madam Chair, which I hope that the committee can consider favorably so that it is clear from the legislature, from the Senate at least, what we intended to do or what we intended insofar as this measure is concerned. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you to the Minority Floor Leader. Just a quick comment on His Honor's statement. He started, about saying how there have been many confusing statements or interpretations from BIR. And when I also mentioned in my opening statement about the need to prioritize, so we were finishing other tax measures behind the scenes, and some of you know this, I was working with DOF on a weekly basis on various interpretations also of so many other bills. And that is, I would think the reason why I ended up hearing this bill is, number one, this was the only issue of the many issues in CREATE that had some issues, conflicting interpretations. This is the only one that there was a bill filed to clarify. And after spending so much time going back and forth with DOF and BIR, it really was the simplest thing for me to do, because honestly, this is like the fifth issue that I've been dealing with since the passage of CREATE to further clarify BIR issuances that seem to be contradictory or at least not consistent with the, in fact, hindi pa nga spirit of the CREATE law, but the clear wordings of the CREATE law. So that is the reason why it's just easier also for me to just have this hearing. And I thank His Honor Senator Angara for just making it easier. Otherwise, I would continually still be going back and forth to this
Yes.
day.
That is
Anyway.
we have suggested a resolution in order that in case this bill does not become law, at least on record is the official interpretation of the Senate insofar as this particular provision is concerned. That's all we intend. That's all the only intention of our proposal, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. So if Senator Riza is ready, we can call on her now. Are you ready, Senator Riza? Yes, okay, proceed. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, my dear colleagues, our dear resource persons, magandang hapon po. Madam Chair, I was happy to add my name as co-author of Sen. Sonny's Senate Bill number 2272. And I was even happier to note that at least 9 other colleagues also co-authored the measure. It would appear that the legislative will is to support this measure and to rally behind our schools and educational institutions. Pero Madam Chair, napipinto na po ang pagbukas ng academic year 2021 to 2022. Kaya urgent ang panawagan na pansamantalang isuspinde ang Revenue Regulation 5-2021. The danger of schools closing down and cutting costs on facilities, teachers, and technological infrastructure, as well as passing on the tax burden to enrolled students, is imminent if we do not suspend RR 5-2021. Ako po'y solo mom na nagtustos ng pag-aaral ng 4 kong anak from grade school to college. Alam ko po ang hirap ng pagbayad ng tuition fee at na-imagine ko na lalong mahirap sa panahon ng pandemya. Ang aking pangamba ay kung ganyan kataas ang buwis na ipapataw sa mga schools, ipapass on ito 2272, hopefully in the short term, but also the temporary suspension of Revenue Regulation 5-2021 in the immediate as an urgent action. Salamat po, Madam.
I promised him he'll have time to defend his sponsorship or whatever statement he needs to make. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Una po sa lahat ay magandang hapon. Good afternoon to all our colleagues, Senator Riza, Senator Frank, Senator Sani, Senator Amy, and of course we sa mabilis na pahirap maghagilap ng datos na magpapatunay na kritikal ang papel na ginagampanan ng ating mga private education institutions sa iba't ibang antas ng edukasyon at sa buong Pilipinas, no? At yan yung dahilan kung bakit bilang chair ng Higher and Technical Education, mabilis ho tayong sumuporta dito sa ipinanukala ni Senator Sani Angara. Alam niyo, sa antos ng kolehiyo, 53% ng 6.18 million na Pilipino na nakapagtapos ng kurso ay produkto ng mga private universities and colleges. Halos ganito rin nga po pag tinignan nyo yung textbook sector. 90.23% ay mga pribadong institusyon. Sa basic education level naman po, isa sa kada 5 mag-aaral ay enrolled sa private schools. Bagamat mas mababang porsyento ang sinasalo ng private schools in terms of absolute figures, the total is as high as 4.3 million students enrolled in private basic education schools nationwide. So, Madam Chair, with these figures, our point is clear and simple. Private schools are partners. Alternatively, Madam Chair, anything that threatens the viability of private schools affects the future of our children. The pandemic has increased the cost of education, including the cost of internet connectivity, equipment for flexible learning, and forced schools to find solutions to foster quality teaching amidst these trying times. Yung NEDA po has pointed out that education sector ranks second in terms of the total number of jobs lost due to COVID-19 pandemic. Buong taon na po silang nakadapa, kaliwat kanan yung pagtatanggal ng mga empleyado nila dahil mahigit 1 taon na pong sarado ang mga eskwelahan. It is for these reasons, Madam Chair, that we support Senate Bill number 2272, which seeks to guarantee preferential or special corporate income tax, which is at 1% from July 1, 2020 to June 30 of 2023. Banggitin ko lang po, Madam Chair, yung ilang datos din mula sa CHED kasi noong October 2019, bago pa man po tumama yung pandemya, 10.49% increase ang average na pagtaas ng tuition fees sa academic year 2019 to 2020. Kasama rin po dito yung 12.55% increase sa other fees. Sa memorandum po ngayon na nilabas ng CHED, May of 2021, ang inaprubahan po na pagtaas na tuition 2020-21 ay 12.06%. Hindi po ito gaanong mataas nung kumpara doon sa nakaraang taon. Pero kung titignan po natin yung pagtaas naman ng other fees, ay 30.39% o higit sa doble noong pong bago ang pandemya. Kaya nga po, gaya ng marami sa atin sa Senado, Madam Chair, kung yung mga sigarilyo, alak at iba pang gumagawa ng sin products, binabaha po natin ng gusto yung corporate income tax nila sa CREATE. Bakit po tila dodoblehin ng BIR yung pong taxes para naman sa mga paaralan? So again, Madam Chair, let me end by saying it is clear that we have to help rather than increase the burden of over 14,435 private basic education institutions, 1,700 by the illogical increase in their corporate income tax. I also would like to spread into the records that I join and support the call of our minority leader to pass a resolution and to again point out that Senate is clear with our intention noong pinasahon natin yung CREATE at hindi kasama dito ito pong mga paaralan na maaapektuhan ngayon. We're again calling the BIR to revoke itong Revenue Regulation 5/2021 at kailangan po talaga ng pribadong paaralan ng agarang pag-aksyon sa issue na ito. Kaya muli, maraming salamat, Madam Chair, for this opportunity at sa ating mga kasamahan sa Senado. God bless us all. Salamat po.
Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Senator Marcos, you're next.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. And as usual, Senator Sani Angara simply beat me to the quick and filed the bill ahead of me. And for that reason, I'd like to extend my wholehearted and unqualified support for his bill. Certainly, it was never the intention of either House of Congress to deprive the already beleaguered education sector of their well-deserved reduction in tax or the 10%. So I'd like to be made a co-author officially. And further also, as described by Senator Drilon, our outstanding minority leader, following the Supreme Court decision of Commissioner of Internal Revenue versus Bicolandia Drug, where it is settled that there should be no regulation in conflict with the law that it implements. May I urge that the chairwoman also take similar notice of the bill I recently filed, number 2306, also to do with the IRR of Section 309 in the Internal Revenue Code, referring to work from home and limiting thus to 30% of the workload for export-oriented BPOs and call centers. Given that these BPOs and export-oriented industries are one of the few green shoots of the post-COVID economy, I am hopeful that I will get similar support from my colleagues. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Idagdag ko sa listahan ko yan. Marami yan. Anyway, Senator Pangilinan, you have the floor.
We believe precisely that this the non-resolution of this issue is really creating so much difficulties and so much uncertainty on the part of our education sector. And the sooner we are able to resolve this, the better, especially at this time. I share with the I would like to associate myself with the manifestation as well of this our minority leader, that pending the final approval of this measure, and prior to before it becomes law, we should likewise consider the adoption of a resolution so that the intent of the Senate and Congress in terms of the 10% and tax rate is made clear. Considering that, of course, all tax measures will have to emanate from the House, the Senate can only go so far. But I think a resolution in the meantime would likewise bolster the position taken by the private sector and, of course, the Senate in terms of ensuring that the erroneous interpretation by the BIR is set aside. Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and maraming salamat.
Okay. Senator Drilon, Senator Gordon, I acknowledge your presence. Would you like to make a statement? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I was delayed. I had a speech to make before the United Architects of the Philippines, and I cut it short for this. It's a very important several provisions. And certainly, it also specifically states not only the Declaration of State Principles that the state shall give priority, but also insofar as education science in Article 14, it says constitutional provision assigning the highest budgetary priority to the education center. You may assign the highest budgetary priority, but you take it back when you provide incentives, and you take it back, and what happens? There's double talk, constitutional double talk on the part of the executive. And then finally, there's also the tax privilege status given to schools. And it even cites under Section 4 of Article 6, Article 14, rather, Education, Science, and Technology. It says under 4.3, proprietary educational institutions, including those cooperatively owned, may likewise be entitled to such exemption, subject to the limitations provided by law, including restrictions on dividends and provisions for reinvestment. So everything under the Constitution points that we must support education, and rightfully so, justifiably so, because we are a country that has fallen back in education, and that education is the key to human development and certainly will uplift our people out of and free them from poverty. And poverty is an absence of choice, and if you're not properly educated, your choices are fundamentally limited and restricted. In addition to this, Mr. President, CREATE was created. Although I voted against it, I was the only one who voted against it and spoke against it. I feel duty bound now to speak out because, you know, the object of generally of the law I thought was good. And however, it's just instances when I begin to really grouse over what is happening to our country. We make laws in this in this Congress, in the Senate, and then when it goes down to the executive, they take liberties. This is not the first time, Mr. President. The fundamental problem with our country is that there is no enforcement of law. And the law is interpreted by people who are not in Congress. They try to make laws when they're supposed to be enforcers of the law. And what has happened here again is a classic example, like in the tourism law. They chose not to give the incentives. We provided incentives in many places, and it's really dismaying and certainly disappointing, if not exacerbate, if not at the very least, makes you feel that there is that our ship of state is floating from here and there, depending on who has the last ear, who gets to the president as the last voice in the ear of the president. So, Mr. President, insofar as this is concerned, we all know that CREATE was there to provide incentives during this very, very severe crisis that we're facing to businessmen, including schools, especially schools. So why are we now getting back and saying that they should be taxed? They should not be available. The proprietary schools should not be, be given the 1% that is being given to all the other schools. And why should we now bring them back to 25% when they were already paying 10%? And in the midst of the crisis, not only here, but when we switched to K-12, a lot of teachers have lost their jobs. When we promoted the salaries of public schools to higher salaries than private schools, the private schools have been marginalized. Many of the public school teachers came from the private schools. And so there will be no development in our private school system in terms of new buildings, new teachers, especially when you take out this provision that is supposed to incentivize the private school system and all the schools for that matter generally, and certainly private schools, which include colleges, tech-voc institutions, and members of an organization called Cocopia, which has 4,125 members covering 6.1 million students. These are the people that will be affected. No, sir. They are the ones impacted by this tsunami, but eventually it will be a tsunami to our country because we will have less students getting schooled in private and in public institutions, Mr. President. On that note, I rest my case, Mr. President. I will participate, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak up on this very, very important matter that I feel very, very strongly and passionately about. We must protect the schools. We must protect the children. We must protect the teachers, and we must be true to our word. Acta non verba. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. So with no other senators who would like to take the floor at this point, we can proceed with our resource person, ASEC, Dakila, Napao, and after that, please be ready, BIR. So ASEC, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, and to the honorable members of the Committee on Ways and Means of the Senate, and to all resource persons for joining this meeting or hearing. Madam Chairman, the DOF is not against the proposed measure, which aim to subject all proprietary educational institutions to the reduced preferential rate of 10%, which is now 1% until June 2023, by removing the qualifier non-profit or proprietary educational institutions in Section 27B of the tax code as amended. Private non-stock non-profit educational institutions falling under Section 27B and private stock for-profit educational institutions will now be both subject to the 10% 50% threshold on gross income is satisfied, Madam Chair. So that's all for our opening statement, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that brief statement. Anyway, we'll open the floor later on to senators who have questions, but let's try to go through the resource persons now. BIR, let me call on ASEC Larry Barcelo. And then after that, is there anyone from the educational institution who want to make a statement? Medyo hindi ganun